The people who build the homes cannot afford to live in them.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre strengthening a promise he made in the fall.
By taking GST, the federal sales tax, off of all homes under $1.3 million.
An increase from the $1 million he originally pledged.
It is a time to build.
And it comes after a similar promise from the Liberals last week.
My new government will...
Again, another one of the many plans that the Liberals and the Conservatives are both on the same page as. Hey, what's up? What do you think about becoming an American citizen soon? I'm going to unalive myself in Minecraft if that happens.
Will eliminate the GST for first-time home buyers on all new
I would rather
and
be
substantially
unalived
renovated
than the
homes under $1
American.
million.
I'm very glad that I was born
That
in
tax
Canada,
cut
where
might help
I have
some,
more rights
but
than Americans
not all
and more
prospective
healthcare.
buyers.
It's going to slowly maybe help.
Yeah,
But
and
this
if
Toronto
he does try
real
to
estate
invade,
agent says
we
many
are
still
going
won't be able to afford the
do
upfront
exactly what we
costs.
did in
The down payment is still a
1812
struggle.
House.
The land transfer tax is still a struggle. And it's not helping bigger cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, where likely there's not going to be new build homes under $1 million.
And the promises don't get to the root of the issue, the lack of supply.
All this will do is increase the demand when we still have a shortage.
Yes, we
so
will
it
do
probably
that.
increases prices.
In 2023, the Liberal government set up a $4 billion housing accelerator fund to address the shortage. The Conservatives say they'll use what's left of it to fund their new home tax cut.
School district's huge.
For Carly Wisleski, who is selling her home and buying a new one, the incentive is too narrow in scope.
I would say housing affordability on the whole, not specific to new builds, not specific even to just first-time home buyers, is what would appeal to us the most.
The Liberals also
I'm not
unlocked some
conservative,
federal
and I'm
bans
also
for
not
housing
liberal.
development, including some affordable homes. But the NDP argues some isn't enough.
We would use all the federal land that we own across this country and build 100% affordable homes.
A clear sign affordability and housing are top of mind for Canadians and consequently the leaders. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so this story didn't really say much either or way. It just kind of said that, like, oh, the Liberals' plan and the Conservative plans aren't going to really help anybody else who's buying housing, but it's also like, not only is it going to not help other people who are buying housing, how is it going to help people who can't afford to even think about putting down a down payment for a house, let alone people who are, not even able to fucking afford their rent and stuff. Like, these plans to try to make home buying easier for first time buyers, or get rid of like sales tax on new builds and stuff like that, those things don't help the poor. They don't help low income people, and that's something that I think a lot of these politicians are like missing when it comes to people like Pierre Poilievre, when it comes to people like Mark Carney, when it comes to people provincially like Doug Ford. Like, these things aren't going to help people. Oh, speaking of Doug Ford, did everybody see that the Ontario minimum wage is going to go up again? As in, instead of $17.20 an hour, it's going to be $17.75 an hour. Like, hello. The average person needs to be making about $26 an hour to be able to live comfortably in Ontario, and he's barely getting it over fucking $18. Like, come the fuck on, Doug. Come the fuck on, Doug Ford. Okay, now we're gonna look at a video that says, can the NTP survive in the next federal election? This is something that a lot of people have been talking about, where it's like, it feels like instead of it being like a normal election where there's, a group kind of that we have to choose from, a lot of people are saying that it feels like there's only, oh my god, okay, sorry, I'm saying oh my god, but y'all don't understand my line of thinking. There's a video here that I want to watch that I was queuing up in a different way through a longer version of the video, and I think I just found the smaller clip of it, so I don't have to do that. Anyways, so like I was saying, going back to the NDP, a lot of people are saying it feels like kind of like an American election right now, where there's only two choices rather than 3 or 4 or 5 like we have in this country. There's 6 political parties that are official in our country, and a lot of people are saying that the NDP aren't breaking it with their messaging. A lot of people aren't feeling confident with the NDP, and I want to watch this like 2-minute, 28 second clip to see
So
what
the
they
NDP
say
might be
about the NDP, because I believe the person who's talking is somebody who is currently traveling with the NDP on their campaign. And it would be nice if the NDP would be less, um, would be less, what's the word I'm looking for? Not flighty, but would be a little bit more transparent with how they're actually going to, do things for Canadians. Like I was mentioning earlier with the Brook Shield, the company that Mark Carney used to work with, when Jagmeet Singh was like, oh, Brook Shield's like so bad, and they do rent evictions, and they keep buying up all these properties because of the housing crisis, and they say that this time around is way better than the crisis that was in 2008. Um, that doesn't really solve any of the problems, though. Like you're not saying, hey, this is my plan for housing. Hey, this is my plan to fight landlords. Hey, this is my plan to deal with these crises. You're just addressing the issue and then not giving us a solution to it. So I kind of want to see what this person says. If maybe Jagmeet Singh will start feeling the heat under his ass and will start actually coming up with tangible plans. If he's not going to because his wife is a landlord, which, for me, I'm very anti-landlord. Like I said previously, my mom fights landlords for a living, so I'm very biased about that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I doubt it, but I'm always very hopeful, of course.
So the NDP might be facing one of its toughest battles yet. Polling shows that they could lose up to 3/4 of their seats in the next election.
The NDP support has just tanked over the last few weeks, and they are in serious trouble.
Even party leader Jagmeet Singh's own seat is at risk. He recently posted this video on TikTok showing him getting ready.
I retie my turban at least once a day just to get it fresh, to get it a little snug.
It's the same sort of way he introduced himself to Canadians when he ran in his first election 5 years ago. But could this approach help his party's campaign this time? Here's what the polls show. CBC's poll tracker aggregates public opinion polling, and the data now suggests...
I'm not trying to judge this person, but her eyebrows are giving 2016.
NDP support might be under 12%.
It has just been a few
And I mean,
polls,
look at me.
but
I'm
if the
suffering from
NDP
eyebrow
continues to
blindness,
poll at
so
this level for
I should be one to talk.
a steady and consistent amount of time, the NDP could be on track for one of its worst results in at least 30 years.
Grenier says part of the challenge for the NDP might be its ties to the Liberals. It kept that minority government afloat in return for social programs like dental care. Those were major NDP policy wins, but they might not be resonating with voters.
They haven't.
And that's a big part of it too, in what I was about to say. So a lot of people are looking at the NDP right now, and they're still seeing Justin Trudeau, even though a lot of the good that came out of the Trudeau administration literally came off of the backs of the NDP, like the dental care thing, NDP, not Liberal. The pharmacare thing, NDP, not Liberal. The $10 a day daycare thing, NDP, not Liberal. So a lot of these things that are positive of the NDP that they worked really hard for, including things like actually trying to hold Galen Weston, the most evil person in Canada, who is currently, pulling a fake Marie Antoinette and saying, let them eat cake. That was great too. But again, because he's so closely tied with Justin Trudeau, because he is so closely tied with the negative legacy of the Trudeau administration, a lot of people aren't going to give him a chance in the way that, like, I think they should try. Even though, again, like, I can be critical of him. I can say things like, oh, I don't think he's going to be as tough on landlords as I would like him to be. But there are some goods that have come out of him being the NDP leader and, you know, doing his best to work for poor people, but it's not enough, right? Like it's not enough in the eyes of the voters, and a lot of people who do see those positive things, they're only going to attribute them to Justin Trudeau, which is a shame, and to the Liberals, which is a shame.
Been able to take credit for some of the wins that they've been doing.
And they kept the Liberal Party in power, and only for that reason I wouldn't vote for them.
I have over the years voted NDP, but I'm going to vote Liberal because I really think that they need every vote that they can.
Part of the challenge for the NDP
and that too,
might be the renewed
a big
support.
part of it too is that a lot of people want to strategically vote and try to keep the Conservatives from winning, which is a noble thing, and it is something that historically we have done time and time again in this country, especially like, for example, back 10 years ago in 2015, when a lot of us and a lot of younger people decided to strategically vote Liberal to keep Justin Trudeau out. Or to keep Harper out. And that's something that I think a lot of people are encouraging now. That's something that, like, I've definitely said, hey, if you're not sure who to vote for, go to smartvoting.ca and see what's more popular in your riding. Because this time around, with the Trump administration being the way it is, with people like Daniel Smith basically advertising to the Americans that Poilievre is a Trump guy and his views align with the Trump administration, nobody wants to flirt with the idea of living under a conservative rule, especially in a country that doesn't have term limits. Like, we could be stuck federally with a conservative government for an extremely long time, something that people like myself in Ontario are fucking suffering with fucking Doug Ford, somebody who we just can't seem to fucking get enough people mobilized to get out and vote to get rid of. And that's definitely, I think, another piece of the pie that's keeping the NDP down. But I really think that, like, if they did come out with better messaging, if they did come out with more solid plans, if they did come out and finally figure out a way to break ties with the Liberal Party, like I mean, not like ties, but like break their affiliation with the Liberal Party in the same way that, like, Pierre Poilievre is failing with the Trump administration, maybe they could have a shot. Maybe they could get more seats. Maybe they could continue to be, one of the more impactful parties. But that's something that, like, we're gonna have to see. Like, this is a pretty short election, and from what I have seen so far, I'm not going to be holding my breath when it comes to how they're messaging themselves and how they're speaking with voters and stuff. But we'll have to see, right?
For Liberal leader Mark Carney, he could be pulling support away from the NDP. And the threats from U.S. President Donald Trump means key NDP priorities during a campaign, like affordability or housing, they might not be at the top of voters' minds.
The ballot question for this federal election will be who is best in the Prime Minister's chair and at the federal government.
This Brad guy was the guy who was on the panel with the lady who was crashing out over Daniel Smith.
To tackle Donald Trump.
Brad Levine, a former NDP campaigner, says this could be a defining election for Singh's career.
Mr. Singh needs to fight like his future leadership is on the line because after 2 election campaigns where he's lost 500,000 votes and 20 seats, unless Mr. Singh can turn this around, New Democrats are going to have a lot of difficult questions for Mr. Singh following this election campaign.
And I asked Singh one of those questions.
If you don't improve the NDP's standing in this next election, should you step down as leader?
Right now, we're focused on the election in front of us and the important choice that people have.
The results of this election could shape the future of the NDP.
Okay. So now we're moving on to what can the federal parties learn from Ford's successful Ontario run? First thing I'm going to say before we get into this video is Ford only really won because the last few years, especially, there has been a historic low a turnout for voters in Ontario. I believe last year it was only 44% of people actually went out and voted versus this year, which I think was 45%. I'm gonna quickly Google it and confirm. But the voter turnouts the last few years have been absolutely horrendous. And I think personally, a huge part of why that is a lot of voter apathy. Oh my god, everything is not loading. There we go. Oh my god, I don't want to zoom in so much. Sorry, I'm a very annoying person. I'm being dramatic. Give me the numbers. Okay, this is not what I'm looking for. Un momento, por favor. Aha. No, this is for 2025. I'm looking up 2024 or 2022. Was it 2022? Oh my god, I don't want to download shit. Okay. So, according to CTV, CTV, the province recorded the lowest voter turnout in history during the 2022 election, with just about 43.5% of eligible voters casting a ballot, according to primarily Elections Ontario results. Of the just over 10.7 million registered voters in the province, this equals just over 4.6 million votes cast. So that is where it was for the 2022 election. I was off by just 0.5%. So I'm going to consider that a little bit of a win. And then when it came to that's about 13.5 percentage points lower than the 2018 provincial election turnout. That is the election that Doug Ford won. So between 2018 and 2022, the voter turnout went down 13.5%. And I think a lot of that has to do with, and I know this is going to sound like a broken record, COVID. I think a lot of the political polarization of both the provincial government and the federal government, as well as the virus itself, and a lot of the polarization and politicization of that, fucking burnt a lot of people's brains, and they just weren't able to, muster enough energy to bother to go out and vote. And that's something that, like, even though I don't endorse it, I can understand. Here, oh my god, global news. Why do you have so many fucking ads? Okay, and from what Global News is reporting, Ontario election voter turnout higher than expected in 2025. Early data shows, and then we go here, and it says, as of Friday morning, the Elections Ontario website indicated slightly more than 5 million out of the 11 million eligible voters chose to cast a ballot on Thursday's election. That's around 45.4% of eligible voters. So that means that there was basically 2.2, 2.3, I'm not good at math, more people went out during the 2025 election versus the 2022 election. But again, that's not a whole lot of people. That's still lower than 50%. And considering the fact that, before it was about 60% went out to vote in 2018, that's really not too great. And that's coming from somebody who did go out and vote, somebody who was, actively trying to make people go out and vote. Just reading. Elections Ontario said around 4.7 million out of the 10.7 million eligible voters chose to cast their ballot in the election held in June of 2022. And then scroll down. It says on this one that in comparison with 2020 or 2018, I keep trying to say 2028. Look. I'm trying to see where it says the numbers verbatim with the 2025 one. Okay, it doesn't really say it here. But yeah, only 45.4% of eligible voters going out literally earlier this year in fucking February is something that makes me worried for the election, like federally, because a lot of those people who didn't vote for the provincial election, they're probably also not going to vote for the federal election. And that's something that I really want to try to encourage anybody watching to go outside, put on some sunscreen, and go talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family members about voting. I know politics is icky. Politics can make people uncomfortable. And not a lot of people are able to talk to their family about politics. I know with certain family members, I'm not able to talk to them about politics without them getting a little red-faced. But it is important to at least try, especially with people who you think will be safe to. It's also important to try to go out and volunteer to, door knock or do whatever you can, physically or monetarily, to go and help try to spread the word. Because if we end up getting a very low voter turnout for the federal election, you know who's going to be the ones who are statistically more likely to vote? The Conservatives. That's exactly why Doug Ford has won the last 3 elections that he has run. It has nothing to do with people wanting Doug Ford more. It has everything to do with people not willing enough to get out and vote him out. And that's something that I really, really, really do get worried about when it comes to people not having the motivation to go out and vote in the federal election. So let's start this video off again, and we'll see what CBC says. They think the provincial election from Ontario can help the federal candidates learn.
Doug Ford and his Ontario PCs romped to victory on a tightly focused campaign message.
Canada. By the way, little insider shit. Prior to 2020, at least from people that I know, a lot of the Conservatives out there just didn't fucking not like Doug Ford at all. Hardcore behind closed doors, people were saying so much shit about Doug Ford. And knowing that even conservative politicians don't like Doug Ford, also goes to show that, some people are just way more party motivated than anything else to actually, go and vote for somebody who's going to be more beneficial to them.
Is not for sale. Not to President Trump, not to anyone.
What does Ford's win with this theme during a provincial election mean for the federal election just a few weeks later?
The number one issue.
I wonder if they're going to talk about the fact that Doug Ford doesn't want to work with paraplegics. That would be hilarious. I would probably giggle.
Driving voter intent in the Ontario provincial campaign was clearly Trump and tariffs. There's, a lot of national polling data that would indicate that the same is true now in the federal election campaign, only even more so.
No choice but to hit back.
Ford pitched himself to Ontario voters as the best leader to fight the trade war with the U.S. Strategists of all stripes say the federal leaders have to make a similar pitch.
That is the only issue in this election, is protecting Canada and Trump and tariffs.
Marielle Nader is a consultant who has advised New Democrats across Canada.
If any party tries to make this ballot question other than Trump, then they're going to get drowned out and they're going to be irrelevant.
When voters are looking at Trump and tariffs and they're scared about what's going on, they're voting based on who they think is the best option to take on that threat.
Good to see you guys. For Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, this means pivoting from the messages he's been hammering away at for more than 2 years.
Situations changed, and you got to fight the campaign that's ahead of you, not the one that you wanted to fight necessarily.
Affordability in particular.
For Liberal leader Mark Carney, it creates an opportunity.
The fact that he sort of presents as this kind of boring dad, technocrat, smart guy, economist is actually a superpower right now.
Her home was recently taken over.
For NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, the ballot question poses a challenge.
It is about Trump and who's going to be best to stand up to Trump, but reframe it in that who is going to be prioritized in that battle.
It's next to impossible to win a federal election without winning Ontario. Over the past 50 years, the party that took the most seats in this province won every election but one.
It's great to see everyone.
And for anybody who's wondering, why is that? Well, it's mostly because Ontario has, one of the higher populations in Canada. So that's a big factor into who wins, which is why I'm worried about the low voter turnout in Ontario, because if people are going to vote provincially, they're most likely not going to vote federally. And that's something that really concerns me, because the people who do go out and vote are conservatives, are little old ladies and little old men who are voting conservative.
Right back at home.
Workers were in the spotlight nearly every day of Ford's winning provincial campaign.
Okay, it literally had no substance to it. I mean, I should have expected it was only 2 minutes and 30 seconds long.
You can already see examples of the federal leaders doing the same.